Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us on something that I've personally been extremely excited about hosting for a while. Just to quickly introduce myself, and then I'll hand over to my guests. My name is Jackie Smith. I'm the host of the Into the Necrosphere podcast. If you want to stab me, throw shit at me, please refrain for the next hour. We can take care of business afterwards. But I'm joined by the lovely Denise Dörner, a filmmaker who is part responsible for the documentary we're going to be discussing today, The Art of Destruction. Denise, do you want to introduce yourself very quickly and let people know who you are and what you do?
You did it pretty well. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
The gentleman to my left, I don't know if anybody knows who he is, but if you want to let people know that just for those that are discovering you for the first time.
I've doing noise for 42 years, so maybe some of you heard about me and my band Destruction. And yeah, we're glad to be here. I'm glad somebody made a movie about a heavy metal band or a documentary that was very unusual in the past. You could have never dreamed of being in the cinema with a bunch of noise we do, basically. So that's a cool thing.
The living legend that is the great Schmier from Destruction. Now, Denise, I wanted to start with you. Just to kind of give us a bit of background on how this project came about. Let's start first with your personal journey. When did your story or your journey as a metalhead and then as a fan of Destruction, when did that begin?
Pretty early. I guess I was around 13 or 14, like a teenager in school, when the cool kids are all dressed in black and you want to be a part of it, and they give you their albums to listen to. And of course, I'm German, and then you have to listen to Destruction. It's a cornerstone of the German metal scene. So, of course, you grow up with a German Big Four.
How old were you just when you discovered Destruction?
I can't tell you exactly because it was so much, and it was a lot of Scandinavian stuff also at that time. But yeah, Destruction were around always, all the decades. So
We're that old.
Well, I mean, this is something that is a theme in the movie, is the fact that you guys have been around for 40 years, which is completely and utterly mind-blowing. But you said something that I thought was extremely interesting early on in the documentary, and that was around the role of heavy metal music in German culture. If you go back to the days when you guys started, what was the local view of heavy metal, and how have you seen that evolve over time?
We were the enemies of society back then. The grandmothers, they changed the street. At the time, the streets when we arrived, they were scared of us. And because it was new, it was wild. And at that time, I'm coming from the countryside, so it was even worse. And it was very difficult to get to a rehearsal room, like still stuff, And nowadays, Germany is completely different because we have Wacken Open Air being the biggest festival in Europe. They're on the national news today, There's a live stream from Telekom streaming the Wacken event to the homes of Germans. So the recognition is different, but the Germans remain conservative. I'm afraid the main society is not metal. People think Germany is such a metal country, but it's not.
I was just going to say to you, it's so interesting because, growing up in South Africa, you would look at Norway and Germany in particular and go like,
it's like everybody's always black metal.
Yeah, exactly. Like everyone in Norway listens to black metal, everyone in Germany listens to thrash. It must be heaven on earth. Your journey as a filmmaker, when did this kind of begin? When did the interest in film start? And, when did you start to entertain the idea that, hey, maybe I can do something of my own?
This was a complete accident. My friend, Illy, the friend I made the movie with, is working for German television. And he is doing festival movies for fun, for passes and beer, since a long time, also since decades. And I needed a drive one day because I broke up with my boyfriend and he was the driver. And I knew my friend Ilya is driving to Rock Hard Festival, and I asked, can I come with you? And then he said, now that you are here, then you can work. And he gave me a camera. I'm I'm a banker in real life. And then I started filming for a few days. And
she didn't have a shaky hand because she doesn't drink so much. She was hired.
yeah,
The balancing the kind of corporate side of what you do with your passion for heavy metal and filmmaking, how do you manage that?
but not so well because since we are making the movie, I'm a bit juggling with filming and funding and jobs. I guess in the last 5 years, I made 10 different jobs.
I mean, yeah, the movie was made without any,
Yeah.
funding from the government. Like as an example, the new Creator movie that's coming out now, they had government funding that was more than 1 million euros for the movie. So that's actually great to have. But our movie got declined by the German government that is in charge of that because it was too much of a genre. And like, I think there was some other problems also, because it's heavy metal, it's not interesting for the mainstream, so we don't have to fund it. And I guess that's something that made our movie very special for me. Is they made all this on their own. They put out the big company behind it or a lot of money.
How did the two of you connect?
Yeah, on Dong Open Air.
They came to me and they were filming the festival and they were a funny couple. I was like, what's those two freaks, They're funny. And I watched their stuff and it was so professional. I was like, wow, it was very professional. And then I found out that Billy, her friend, she's working with, he's a camera guy for German television. That's why the material was so good. And yeah, and then we became friends over, we saw at festivals, and that's how it all started. Until the day they came to me like, my dream is to want to do a heavy metal movie. And I'm like, so what? And then,
how long have you guys been friends at the point that you came to him with that idea?
that's a good question.
Ilya and me?
What, you and Schmier?
Oh, we met each other for the first time, but we talked and it was nice. And Schmier invited us to their tent. They had a backstage tent, and it was a great conversation and a great idea what a movie about the German Big Four could be like, because they are all very intense personalities, but all very different. And at that point, we knew we have to do this. We have to do this. Yeah.
So what was the catalyst for you? Because, as Schmier has pointed out, self-funded, no support from the government. You also have a day job, so there's a degree of not just financial risk, but personal risk involved. It's time investment, and this is done for anybody who's seen the documentary. This is done over a very lengthy period of time. It's about
5 years.
5 years. Yeah. What was the catalyst for you or what made you decide, the phrase is the juice is worth the squeeze, it's worth doing this, it's worth pursuing this project?
The idea was really good, and legendary Schmier of Destruction said yes. So you do it, right?
I mean, nobody ever asked me to do a movie about my band, so I was like, that's cool, but how is it going to be? We didn't know at that time. And we didn't know we were going to film 4.5 years, We thought it's going to be one tour, a little filming here, a little filming there, and then that's it. And that's where the fun started, basically. That's why the movies kind of turned out so cool, because we had to face a lot of problems, and it's in there.
Did it feel strange for you allowing that degree of access to, the band, but also to you personally?
I think that just happened because we got closer over time, and in the beginning, the camera, they feel uncomfortable when somebody walks behind you on the camera all the time. But over the time, we became closer to them as friends, as humans, and then they got very close. And I also watched some documentaries at that time to get an idea how is it going to be, And I think the best documentaries that I watched was the Liebling documentary, Bobby Liebling one, or Lady Gaga, or the Anvil one, documentaries that are real, that show the real thing, not just praising the band, just catching the moment and catching the stuff behind the curtain. So when they started to the first cut, when I had the first cut, I was like, how many scenes do we have to delete here, But convinced me that, it's cooler to leave stuff in that is also maybe not, at the moment it feels weird for you as a musician, but it reveals something behind the curtain. That's cool.
I think it's also got to do with generationally where you're from. I've spoken to a lot of people about this on my podcast. I think a lot of the guys that come from the older school of metal, we were used to the mystique.
We don't show our testicles on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe if you're lucky, you get to see one interview with a guy, but it was, you were always wondering, who's the person behind the facade. Nowadays, it's completely different. Guys are on social media, or on TikTok, or whatever the case may be. There's documentaries made about people that it shows them in a light that we're not used to. On this one in particular, especially the second half of the documentary, you start to show a very vulnerable, very personal side to you, which I really, really liked. I thought that was incredibly compelling. But in order for you to get that out of Schmier, out of the rest of the band, a lot of work would have had to go into establishing trust for the people that you were filming. How did you do that?
There was a certain chemistry from the beginning. Then you heard Schmier. We were really lucky that he had a sense for this. He knew that he had to give us something to make this compelling. And there were several times when we just drove to Mike and members of the band just to talk or to be with them. This is a huge part of this, to talk, to build trust. I think Ilya had a really short connection, strong connection in communication with Schmier, and that was really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work without trust, I guess.
Yeah.
But you're also in a position where, this is the first time we're speaking, so I don't know whether you've had this experience personally, but a lot of people I speak to have had, generally speaking, very negative experiences with the press, at least at some point. I can't imagine over the course of a 40-year experience you're gonna not have that.
Yeah, I mean, usually the worst thing is when German television comes in and they want to film like some kind of documentary about the Wacken Festival and follow you in Wacken, when it happened with jobs before at some festivals. And then when the documentary comes on TV, they make you look like a fool, Heavy metal fans are drinking and idiots, basically.
They come in and the first thing they say is, where did the goat sacrifices take place?
Yeah.
I mean, we had those experiences before. That's why we usually don't do those things anymore, those interviews with those formats that are basically making heavy metal look like we're stupid idiots.
Don't treat it with the respect it deserves.
Exactly, and Illy and Denise, they were coming from the scene, and I watched their work, so I knew that they would treat this whole thing with respect.
So the story starts with the idea of Schmier is, wants to fulfill a lifelong dream by uniting the big four of German thrash. Then we get to February 2020. We creep in, and I love the way you sort of. There's this sense of foreboding in the documentary because we all know what's going to come. It's kind of just when does it actually hit? COVID happens and everything changes. It's like when you were filming this, in the midst of making this documentary, when that happened, what were your instant thoughts, like your instant reactions to what was going on? Did you think that this potentially derails everything?
Yeah. We thought this was over. At first, we thought it would only last for 3 weeks. Then we thought it would last for 3 months. And yeah, we really thought it was over, and we thought it more than once because there's a lot more happening in this documentary. You can see on Saturday at 1 at the cinema here in Bergen. We didn't know the end. But when the pandemic was over, and this is also why it took us 5 years, because we had to build a story. But after such drama, and to end on a good note, what we did, only in hindsight, we knew we had a movie.
Yeah, and it's the story started, I think, from that catalyst, or the arc of COVID starting. It starts to develop itself organically, and it moves away completely from what the original intention was. Now, just a slight detour, and it's out of personal curiosity more than anything else. You were unfortunately stranded in the Maldives. It looked like you were having a terrible time.
People are like, it must have been terrible. But seriously, in that moment when you're on the island and you're the last guy on the island, and it was actually, it's a Muslim country, you know, you couldn't go anywhere. There was no more planes to Germany at that time. You want to go back home. We're human. We want to go home at that point, you know. And as great as it sounds like, lonely island, we all want that, right? But when we have it, we don't want it anymore.
You realize that idea of I want to live on a deserted island.
Because it was all this uncertainty about, you know, COVID, about the pandemic, you know. And I actually, when I started to get into the topic of the pandemic, I read about it. The pandemic gonna take at least a year. You know? I was never like, it's gonna be over in 3 weeks. I never believed in that. So I knew I had to go back home. And so the moment on the island might look funny, but it wasn't at that moment because we didn't know what to expect.
Yeah. And the thing is, you read stories about people being stranded in hotels for like 3-4 months at a time.
There was people in Peru, and they locked them in hotels. They couldn't get out and stuff, you know. So the island was the best option, I'm sure.
But you had the sunshine there at least. So, how long were you in the Maldives for before you were able to get back to Germany?
I think the holiday was like 8 days or something like that. But then we had another 5 days on top until we came back home. And we made it on the last plane available, basically. But it took days. We had to write the embassy, and we had to write the German customs, and the German customs phoned the airport, and it was very complicated to get out.
So as things then start to progress from there, you know, Bangkok to that's again, like I suggested earlier, that's where the story to me starts to become really, really compelling, because I was talking to a lot of people in bands at the time who were, you know, sharing similar challenges, I think, to what you were experiencing. I think one of the things that strikes me most is where you effectively say that if you can't start touring again inside of a year, you may have to declare bankruptcy.
Yeah, because other people, everybody at one point could work again. Most people could work from home. Even, stupid example, but even prostitutes could go back to work, you know.
Yeah.
But as musicians, we couldn't play shows, you know. And shows is what pays the bands. It's not the record. It's not the merch. It's part of it, but the shows are the most important part. And we had no shows for how many months? 12, 14, 16. So what's going to happen if you don't work for that long? You know, there's no money coming in. And the German government actually helped with some money, but at the end it was basically just a credit, and they wanted to have it back, you know. So it was not really very helpful for us.
And I was surprised when you said on the documentary that they actually, it was kind of midway through the pandemic, they were asking for the credit back from you, were they not? It was the pandemic was still ongoing, lockdown was still ongoing, you still couldn't play, and they were already asking for the credit back.
It was 1 year after the pandemic was over, they're asking it to, because at the beginning they made it look like it's a help. You know, we give you a couple of €1,000 so you can pay your rent and stuff until you can work again. But then after 1 year they said, okay, we changed the rules, now you have to pay it back. You know, because we've been still trying to work. You know, we made a live album and we made a DVD at the time. We tried to, stay in business. And so our fans don't forget us, and we made a little bit of money. And then they said, yeah, but you made some money, so you used to pay everything back. And that was brutal because right after the pandemic, there was still a difficult situation, But, at the end, you got to believe in what you do, and you got to work hard, and that's what we did, and we came out of it stronger than ever. But at that moment, it was kind of not a nice feeling.
Denise, so when these guys are going through these very vulnerable, very personal moments, many of them being quite existential, how do you, in that moment, when it's being filmed, in the moment, how you manage that?
I don't know if you can call it managing, because we liked the guys and we were just suffering with them. So, and sometimes we gave them space. We're not always around, but you see.
You're not thirsty.
Thank you very much, mate.
You see in the movie how raw the situation for us was too. Either. Yeah.
Was there ever a question where, or ever a point where you thought that it might be better to put the project on pause, or was that never an option?
We talked about it, right? Yeah. Yeah, and we talked about it for a moment, if we should pause this or stop, or can we continue? But at the end, we all agreed that, we started it, so we got to finish it. We didn't know it's going to take that long, but...
Yeah.
So all in all, 5 years worth of filming. How much, how many hours of footage did you end up with?
I think 80 or something, and that was the real challenge, taking 80 hours and make it into a 70 minutes movie.
So I have to ask you, so it's around 70, 75 minutes long.
Yeah.
How do you distill and edit all of that footage down into something that is, more easily digestible?
You have to watch it all, and then you have to find the highlight moments. As easy as that, yeah.
I guess,
Yeah.
Selecting your picture after button,
We talked a lot about cutting versions, and in the end, we just took the story and put it like we in the place, like we experienced it, and it was good. Like the real life was good. So we took that version.
In both the editing and the process of actually making the film, what were the biggest lessons that you learned? Because it's your first experience of doing it. As we said earlier, it's an incredibly ambitious undertaking, especially for someone who's doing something like this the first time. What were the biggest lessons for you, and also what are the things about that experience that surprised you the most?
First, you need funding the next time, and expect everything.
Yeah, and generally the funding has to be done before the movie starts.
Yeah, right.
That was the problem also, because we already started preparing the movie, and then the German government said, yeah, but you started the movie process already, but the funding has to be done before even the first second is filmed, right?
Right, yeah.
That's something you learned.
Yeah, exactly,
Like this,
yeah.
One of the things, an additional theme that comes up here that I think you teased out really, really nicely, because it's never too on the nose, but it's always there. But I think something that everyone wrestles with, and I think now in particular with with what happened with Ozzy Osbourne, it becomes even more poignant. But the idea of growing older and how we deal with that. I mentioned to you earlier, and I was keen for us to explore this here as well. But one, you look to be in absolutely fantastic shape. How do you, what have you done to maintain your health, your ability to be out the road, being a practicing musician, after 4 decades?
I think life is a challenge and it's experience, and you got to learn from your experiences. That's what I do. And I always been into sports, and I always did something for my body. I changed my diet a long time ago, and at one point, you got to admit you get older. You got to drink less, do more workout. And that's basically, I think, something you learn quick when you're into sports, that, it's important to do something. And I think that's my backbone. And it's good genes. I think my mother, she's 86 and she still looks good for her age. So she gave me some good genes also. I think, editing life is about a learning process. When your body sends you signs that you will get older, you got to do something, and you should do it. And a lot of men don't listen to the advice of the body. That's the problem. It's about men, right?
Young Schmier was a good soccer player, right?
Well, I was gonna say, that you were playing football to a reasonably high level.
Yeah, I love football. It's what basically saved me when I was young. The other kids took drugs. I played football, and at the end, it's the muscle memory that stays. So I always liked sports, and I think that really helped me later on, to continue with other stuff, and still find fun in sports, like, because some of my friends, they don't want to go work out or do a gym or bicycle because they just have no fun doing it. I always enjoyed it. So
Do you still, like, I mean, I know you work out, but do you do any other sports? Do you do competitive sports?
I mean, the problem is nowadays, the old bones, I just tore a muscle in my calf.
Yeah.
Couldn't walk for 2 days. So I gotta be careful because now we're on festivals also. And so, we gave up the football. And back in some years ago, we still brought a ball of football on tour. Then between the sound checks of the bands, we were playing in the venue a little bit of football, But now when you get older, you gotta be more careful because shit like this happens,
Yeah.
But yeah, I ride bicycle also. I love bicycle. I think it's fun to do. Like I've just watched some Tour de France and I'm like, oh my god, those guys are crazy.
Yeah. So the one of the things that you see on the documentary is the first show that you played, when the lockdown rules were slightly more relaxed. You had social distancing at the venue and all that sort of thing. But wow, what did it feel like for you to be on stage after having, something that had been really your life's work taken from you for what felt like an undetermined period of time?
Yeah, I think it's like, when they take something away from you that it's your life, you appreciate it more afterwards because that was the feeling. And we all know that feeling, right? When you kind of have to spare something out and it comes back, you appreciate it more. And I think that's what we have now, that we appreciate the moment much more than we do it in the past. I mean, always been thankful for what we can do for the traveling and seeing the world as a musician. But nowadays, it's not normal. It's more appreciated. I think that's what comes out of COVID for me.
Mm. Denise, if you think back to the documentary, is there what one particular scene stands out for you as the kind of, I don't know if you should call it the Oscar moment, but the moment that captures really the core of the story that you were trying to tell?
I think it's the ending. I won't spoiler here, but it's similar to that what Schmier said, just like that. They don't give up, they keep going, and you do this for passion. And at the end, were lucky to capture such a moment, and that is the core of Destruction, I guess.
We all want a happy ending.
Yeah.
Well, it is. I mean, it is, but it's a happy ending enabled by your resilience.
Yeah.
And I think it says two things. It's about not just passion for the music and for the band, but it gives you the measure of the man as well. So that resilience, if you go back to when you were young, growing up, you mentioned playing football. Have you always had that in you?
Did never give up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it builds. It builds with time, because you see that you're gonna fall, you're gonna struggle. What's gonna happen next, but you see when you stand up, life goes on. It's like this happens the first time, maybe when your first girlfriend kicks your ass. You're like, oh my god, I'm in love. The love of my life is gone. No, it wasn't the love of my life. It's just a girl on the way. You need to get older, but I think the experience shows that if you stand up and go on, life will get better. You got to believe in that, and that's always been my motivation. I mean, Destruction split up in the best years at the end of the 80s. We were idiots, young idiots, and we learned from that. That's why we're still here.
You think about a documentary like this. I mean, it would make me certainly very nostalgic seeing, seeing myself on screen, but you're also reflecting on the past 40 years. You've just spoken about, the period when you broke up. If you look back over your career, what are the things you wish you could do differently if you had an opportunity to?
And do I really want to do that? That's the thing. Every problem that occurs had to be, had to find a solution for it. And the solution usually made me stronger or gave me a conclusion or, helped me for some other situations in life. So I don't think I would change a thing. Maybe even I would say the worst thing I ever did was to sign the first record deal because it was so bad was kind of slavery, you know. But without this record deal, I wouldn't be here. You know, it gave me the early moment of disruption, being famous when heavy metal just started, or extreme metal just started. So every downside has a good side.
Denise, have you started thinking, or has this inspired you to potentially take on another project in the future?
Yes, I would love to. If we got the right band, the right idea, the right funding.
It's actually crazy to see it. Like I don't know if you know this Thunderflix. It's like a new app, and or like a portal, like a portal for heavy metal movies, basically. So it's not that famous yet. It's more like located in the States, but it's coming over here too, and it's basically Netflix for heavy metal. And it's crazy how much movies they have and how much passion they put into this project. And I think it's really cool. And every heavy metal fan should know about it, actually. I was surprised because I also didn't know it before our movie. And a lot of my friends now thank me for, my God, because you never find metal movies on Netflix, or not many at least, So stuff like Thunderflix is a big opportunity for the metal community also to see all those movies.
They supported us a lot, and on this platform you can stream it worldwide and with many subtitles in every language.
The most cooperative one,
Yeah.
because Amazon Prime and Apple, they're big companies, they don't give a fuck, But Thunderflix is really supportive, yeah.
I'm sure I saw that it's going to be streaming on Prime, though, is it not?
It is.
It's in Prime in some countries, yeah. But we have no influence on which countries they take the movie, So a lot of people complained about Amazon Prime. It's not showing the movie, just says not available in your country. But we have no influence on that, They decide themselves. And that's the great thing about Thunderflix. It's available everywhere in the world, I think, except Russia. I don't know.
For some bizarre reason, not available in Russia. Now, when you think about the project, you said if it's a band. I wanted to backtrack a bit on just your love of filmmaking. Like, where did that start? Like, you describe yourself as a movie fanatic. Where does that come from, and how do you potentially see that evolving? You think you could turn this into a full-time career?
Really, after the parking lot incident with Ely, really after that, and after a few years of doing it, it should be a one-time experience, but it was so much fun to be with the guys and be with the people. We talk a lot to the audience when we're on festivals to catch the atmosphere, and it was so much fun. And then over the years, slowly, and in the end, on that day on Dong Open Air with Schmier. Yeah.
Did you have any reference points when you were doing this? Other music documentaries that had inspired you, or that had at least kind of given you some sort of direction that you might want to take this in?
No, we were really focused on what was happening with this destruction. Of course, there are great documentaries out there. Schmier mentioned already the Lady Gaga documentary, which was really raw and honest and authentic. And that was the vibe we were going for.
Also, Metallica, Some Kind of Monsters, pretty cool documentary. I mean, it's, it doesn't
destroy my childhood.
Exactly. It destroyed the band. But the band is bigger than ever. It showed them vulnerable, and it's kind of crazy to show yourself like that. I mean, that was really brave, I think. So
you do have. There is a moment in the movie where Mike leaves the band, and that is a kind of sad. It's a sad point in the film. Not to dwell on that, but was there ever a conversation about how much of that you could show? Like with, Some Kind of Monster, as you say, it is really, really transparent.
Yeah, that's actually, of course, a problem, because you want to continue with the band. The band continues, one guy leaves, and there's reasons, and the band wants to continue. You don't want to talk about old bullshit. You don't want to put your feet in the mud and start stirring it up, So the reason was how much of this do we leave in the movie, or do we all cut it out? We don't mention Mike. No, we can't do that. He's a big part of Destruction's history, right? So yeah, we have to discuss this without losing the focus of, we continue and we look into a bright future, because Mike will always be detached to the band, but he decided to leave. So, let's find a way to feature him in a positive way. And actually, the reaction on the cinema was really cool, because, some people put applause when he came, and, people appreciated that we kept him in the movie. Also, we asked him, of course, he wants to be in the movie. And he said he wants to see the movie first, so which is understandable.
So, 30 minutes have to go out of me slagging him and saying how much I hate him. So, no, I mean, I think it's a fine line there between, you kind of have to be honest with the fans, but at the same time, as you say, you don't want to stir up drama just for the sake of doing so. You gonna say?
Exactly. Yeah, that's how we came to the conclusion to do it this way. Yeah.
And this is exactly that. You have to be in the moment, and that was the approach. Work with what is happening, not reproducing other documentaries. That will never work.
Personal curiosity as much as anything else. Have you, and I've asked this as someone who's just finished watching the documentary, have you spoken with Mike again?
Actually, the movie got screened in our hometown a couple of months ago, and was actually really cool. Everybody came, except Mike, because he's more like a hermit. He likes to be home and PlayStation.
You kind of get that from the documentary.
Small to join and have peace. It's like that to band also, but he's in peace with himself. So, but he doesn't like big crowds. And so the guys actually went home to him, and then maybe Denise has to take over, because they filmed a little bit at his home. And there will also be a part of the DVD and Blu-ray that comes out. Right? It's like bonus material that they filmed after. Maybe you want to talk about that.
Yeah. Mike is really at peace, and Mike changed to painting at the moment. He is sitting at home and is doing great paintings. So maybe one day on Beyond the Gates, a little Mike exhibition, maybe.
Perhaps. So we touched on you mentioned earlier about the initial responses when people started seeing this. You must have been, were you nervous, when you started screening this to new people and, a wider audience started to see the documentary?
Yeah, I'm fucking nervous the whole year. I'm now really nervous, and every time it's an exciting year for me.
So what have you made of what have you made of the response to the movie so far?
It's actually great. I would love to have more marketing from the movie publisher. That would be nice, but the response is great so far.
It's difficult to find a company that helps you, to spread the news and bring it everywhere. And they were looking for a while for a publisher, but when they found one, they were happy. But now we saw the borders of a small publishing company, Amazon is not releasing it everywhere. And, it could have been in the cinemas, but they were too slow, and now it's summer. So it's difficult to play it in summer in cinemas. And it would be nice to have a bigger publisher for a movie like this, but maybe also, it's step by step. As I said, now the creator movie is coming, and that's actually on a bigger stage. It's also going to be cool for us to have another big German band, having another movie out. And it's successful. All of our movie screenings were full, was a lot of people coming, was a lot of interest. So it will show also the people around the publishers that the Met community is a strong unit and people are interested.
It also speaks to the enduring love that people have for Destruction. And again, it's not every band that can say we've maintained a following through fads, trends, everything. People that are stuck with us. What do you think it is that's made people so loyal, made fans so loyal to Destruction?
I mean, we've been, what people criticize my band, they say we always sound the same, you know. But that's what made the AC/DC successful, you know.
I was just about to say, well, Razor's Edge sounded a lot like.
Stick to your guns, you know. I think that's why we've been developing the band. We changed in our own kind of way, but we're still Destruction, and I think that's what people want. People want a reliable brand that delivers, you know, and that's what we did. And we're not going to change. I'm not going to play the blues in 2 years, you know.
No acoustic albums, no Destruction Unplugged. I mean, it also leaves the ending of the documentary kind of leaves it open to a potential sequel. You know, you still have a dream that you need to pursue.
Yeah, this tour with Creator, Sodom, and Tankard will never happen. I have to say, it's sad, you know, because the Sodom retired. We don't know, but at the moment it looks like it's not going to happen. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, we know those retirements, right?
I think, you know, just as a final comment, I think the thing about this documentary does make it very special. It's, you know, it's a love letter to Destruction, but at the same time, I think the actual story that emerged because of the things that happened becomes a very human story and a very relatable story. And I think it doesn't really matter if you know, whether you like or know the band or whether you're completely indifferent to them. I think the human story is what comes out at you first and foremost. And I think that's what makes it so.
Yeah, I think that's how I mentioned this Lieblings movie, you know, about Bobby Liebling. I didn't know Pentagram that well, and it's actually the opposite kind of music that Destruction does, you know. It's Zoom and we play speed thrash, you know. So I wasn't really aware of the guy, but the documentary really touched me because you get so close to a person that is addicted and failing. And I think that's what people want to see, right?
Well, I thank you very much for your time. There is a screening of the film on Saturday. And are you going to be doing another Q&A on Saturday?
I will be there, and if people want, they can talk to me, of course.
Yeah, we're playing Wacken on Saturday. And you're part of Wacken on Saturday.
Oh, you're also playing tonight?
We're playing tonight. Here at the festival, yeah. And tomorrow playing Portugal at the Vagos open air, and Saturday one Wacken.
Well, thank you so much for your time, guys.
Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed that very much, and very much looking forward to seeing you this evening.
Weltstar klingt so geschwollen und hochgestochen, aber klar, wir sind weltweit bekannt. Ich bin der Schmier, der Bassist und Sänger der Band. Die Band heißt Destruction. Das Highlight für uns alle wäre nochmal zu touren mit Creator, Sodom und Tankard. Die Urgesteine zu vereinen zu einer Tour weltweit. Wir haben alle zusammen angefangen. Wir waren die ersten Bands der extremen deutschen Szene.
Gerade weil heute so viele hunderte Bands jeden Monat rauskommen. Früher gab es ja nur eine Handvoll.
Wo man hinkommt auf der ganzen Welt, alle fragen.
Das Coronavirus schränkt das öffentliche Leben in Deutschland mehr und mehr ein.
Ich sage immer, es ist wie eine alte Ehe halt. So, ne? So, man kennt sich genau.
Auch schon eine Freundschaft.
Ja, man hat da nicht drüber nachgedacht, dass das alles so endet auch, klar. Sollen Sie mich ficken, echt? Ich kann nicht mehr. Ohne die neue Platte weiß ich nicht, ob ich jetzt noch hier sitzen würde. Die hat mich schon so gerettet auch.